Hey guys, just thought I should step on real quick to share a quick business idea I had. I know that a lot of you guys follow me. I know that about 50% of my followers actually follow me for the purpose of exploring business ideas and learning about investing and ideas in business. And I just wanted to come on real quick and just give a quick idea that you guys can take home with you, and I'm not going to sue you for it or anything. And this is potentially life-changing, both for the people who adopted this idea and for the people who are on the receiving end, the consumers, or even those who dwell in the conceptual neighborhood of this idea. It's a very serious improvement to society. So basically the way it goes is, everyone knows William Faulkner's famous book called The Turn of the Screw. Everyone knows that book. Everyone has read that book probably today. And one thing that occurred to me was, so this is a shrew. This picture on the screen is a shrew. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, if William Faulkner was hanging out with William Shakespeare, who wrote The Taming of the Shrew, and William Faulkner and Shakespeare got to talking, I was thinking, maybe Shakespeare would have written The Taming of the Screw, and William Faulkner would have written The Turn of the Shrew. So I kind of just wanted to show you guys a quick idea of what this would look like if William Faulkner wrote The Turn of the Shrew. So here it goes. Let's show that one more time. So there you have it. This is what it would look like if William Faulkner wrote Turn of the Shrew, and then it got adapted into a movie. And I know that Hollywood is kind of hurting right now for some original ideas, so I just thought I would, come and share this with you guys, and hopefully everyone can make their own movie for Turn of the Shrew. And maybe some of you guys can make The Taming of the Screw if you're more on the William Shakespeare side. But I do think that in society we really need to get together more of these great minds. I think that a lot of the times we have our geniuses, especially our authors, kind of in their own spaces where they can't really interact. And, I think that if Charles Dickens was here right now, he would probably have something to say about this. He would probably say, instead of writing Tale of Two Cities, he probably would have written Tale of Two Williams, because if you had William Shakespeare and William Faulkner in the same room, then it would kind of be a tale would start to be told of how these two Williams came up with one really good idea, which was, really two good ideas, which was The Turn of the Shrew and The Taming of the Screw. And speaking of tales, shrews do have tails, and I'm sure that Dickens would have loved that pun. But unfortunately, all three of these authors are dead, so they will not be turning any shrews anytime soon. But I just thought that we could appreciate this, and maybe for the 100th anniversary of Turn of the Screw, which is coming up soon. I was just thinking that we could maybe make a new book cover or something, and it could have a shrew on it instead, and then it could say, or maybe on the back, on the front, so it could have a picture of William Faulkner, and it could say, hey, this is called Turn of the Screw, and then have a little asterisk on it. And then you go to the back and it says, so little known fact, William Faulkner actually wrote Turn of the Screw, but he meant to put Turn of the Shrew. And we have a whole lot of evidence that if he had talked to William Shakespeare and he had kind of learned about, how shrews can be tamed from William Shakespeare, then he probably would have taken some inspiration from that, and he probably would have made this a completely different story, probably about rodents of some kind, preferably shrews. So it could say that on the back, and then it could say, hey, like we're writing another book right now called A Tale of Two Williams by Charles Dickens. And then on that, it could say a little asterisk, and it could be like, well, it wasn't really written by Charles Dickens, but we do have good reason to believe that if Charles Dickens was in the room with William Shakespeare and William Faulkner when they were talking about their literature, then he would have written a book called A Tale of Two Williams instead of A Tale of Two Cities. So it's kind of like this chain of information and hypotheses that start to unfold once you consider how these geniuses would interact with each other if you put them all in a room. And not all of them speak English, so that is an issue to be resolved. Hopefully we could bring AI into the situation, and maybe we could even use AI to write these books, because AI is another genius in this equation. I think a lot of the reasons that we haven't had books like Turn of the Shrew and Taming of the Screw and Tale of Two Williams, I think the main reason is because we haven't had AI. AI it really should stand for advanced intelligence, because it kind of advances the way that we're able to think about the world and see how the human mind works by using a robotic model. And I think that the only one to rival AI in terms of intelligence would be, God himself, and then maybe Donald Trump. Both of those are geniuses, and I'm sure that Donald Trump will, now that he has taken a lot of funding away from research across every field of literally everything, I'm sure that he will have a lot of money left over in his pocket. And since he is a very avid reader of both William Shakespeare and William Faulkner, I think that we could convince him to create a project where we, kind of see how AI would create an image of the book cover if it was the 1920s and they didn't have computers and they only had a pencil and paper to draw the book covers one at a time. Also, I just think it's funny that if you had William Shakespeare and William Faulkner, and one day you said, hey, you guys should switch first names, and then they did, you would never know whether they did or whether they didn't do it, because their name is both William, so you wouldn't know which William belonged to the original owner of that name. And that would be a kind of another Tale of Two Williams situation, because you would have in that book, A Tale of Two Cities, which I haven't read, you have kind of like a mingling of the two cities. So you've got one city on one hand and you've got one city on the other, and kind of the main thematic exploration that that book does is how those two cities kind of mingle and how to tell them apart, and why is one city different from another city. And I think that it's kind of the same situation with the Williams, because if you switch one William with another one, you won't know. Now, another thing is that if you consider composers like John Williams or William B. Croft, then they, depending on the placement of the name, whether it's in the first name or the last name, then that can really mix things up, because you don't know if it's still a last name or a first name after it's been put into the first name position or the last name position of the new owner of the name after the Switch. Not to be confused with the Nintendo Switch. So, in summary, I kind of just want to say that this business opportunity is really important to consider. We have seen a lower economy than usual, and I think that's all part of the plan. I think we're trying to bring down the economy as low as possible, so then everything, when it gets better, then it is relatively great. We'll be ready to get out of the low lows, so then the medium lows will seem like highs. But in order to get out of those low lows, we really do need to have some ingenuity going on. And I recommend that the turn of the shrew is what leads us out of that recession, because it is, if you think about it, it's timeless, right? William Shakespeare was alive in the, around Jesus Christ time. And William Faulkner was awake in 1920, and Charles Dickens was awake in 1800. So if you think about all those time periods, that's pretty basically all of human time periods, those 3 years. And if we're able to create a timeless product that's like the ultimate literature, and one thing that never goes out of style is reading books. Everyone reads a book. If you go anywhere, and you're out, they're always on their books. They're always reading their books, whether they're in line or they're on the train or whatever. They're constantly reading their books. They can't get their noses out of their books. And that's another thing about noses, is that you can see from the picture on the screen here that shrews have kind of distinct noses, and that would help them stick their noses in a good book. So people would kind of see a parallel there. And it's, again, another sort of Tale of Two Cities situations, or a tale of two shrews, because the people who are reading are going to be really shrewd about what they're reading, and also they're going to be reading about a shrew. So I think that if we're able to take this Shrew book, if we write a book, and well, if Charles Dickens wrote a book, and then we can give that to everybody and they will all buy it, and we can charge 1 shilling for it, a price that even a shrew could afford, then I think that we can pull the economy out of recession. And I think that we can have some new furry friends along the way. Thank you for your time, and I hope you turn a shrew, and I hope you have a good night. And and a shrew.